welcome to another edition of Equity Guru's Investor Roundtable, where we sit around and discuss what we think is the best or the challenges or the worst of companies, and we let you know just how we feel about them by letting you see in our own money dollars how much we'd spend on these companies. Today we're going to be focusing on Medexus Pharma. This is a Canadian specialty pharma company trading on the TSX exchange under the symbol M, that's Mark, D as in Doug, and P as in Peter, that's MDP on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Great company, I kind of like them. Chris, dive in. Let us know who you think Medexus is and what you think is so good about them.
Yeah, so first off, worth noting Medexus is a big board company, right? We do a lot of small cap, micro cap. These guys are actually up on the big board. Which is a testament to the fact that real business. The recap, the TLDR on the last year for them has been that they've got a drug, treosulfan, that's been going through FDA approval. It's approved everywhere else in the world. It will be approved, I am guessing. But there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done with these things. A lot of things where if you don't dot an I, you've got to go back and do it again. Generally speaking, people look at FDA from a biotech perspective, which is if the FDA doesn't say yes, you're in trouble. You've got to go back and do a lot of clinical testing, and it costs a lot of money, and you're screwed. That's not the case here. They just needed to take some data they already had, reformat it, and send it in. So they've had two of those speed bumps where the share price got absolutely cratered, and for really no good reason in the end. Just a delay, not a no. So in the last, let's say 6 months, the company has decided, you know what, we've got to stop telling people that treosulfan is coming because everyone's getting all wound up. And then when the feds say, well, you've got to send us another TPS report in triplicate, we lose half our share price. So they basically just said, by the way, have you seen all of these other products that we're selling? That the revenue of which is going like that? Profitability is coming really close. They've basically, they were at one point trading under $1, which was problematic, but also made them worth about the same as 1 quarter's revenue, which is nuts, right? The revenue is in US dollars, and the last quarter that they put out was 27 million in rev. So you're looking at over $100 million US. They've got a new licensed product that they've started selling just in the small part of the last bit of that quarter. Now they get another quarter with all of those sales thrown in. You're looking at probably around, I'd say, January comes out. I would expect to be much higher than 27 million. So for a company that is booking, let's say conservatively, let's say that they just keep it where it is, 110, 120 million dollars US a year, your market cap is at, what is it at right now? Drum roll, please. 43 million Canadian, right? So you're looking at about 32 million US. That's nuts. That's nuts. And if this thing was losing $7 million a quarter, you could justify it. It ain't doing that. In the last quarter, I believe it had about $2 million net income loss, which was much lower than the previous quarter than that, which was much lower than the previous quarter before that. They've got cash in hand. They're not a biotech company. They take great pains to remind me. I always consider anyone in pharmaceuticals that's sort of wrapped up in biotech. They ain't that. They are a pharmaceutical company with products that are for sale in the US and Canada, and they've got a whole bunch of them, and they all make money every single day because we're all sick.
Exactly. We are all sick. I like Medexus. I think it's a really interesting company. I like specialty pharma in general. The whole philosophy is that you pick a drug that's already been approved in other regions or just jurisdictions, and you just go through a couple of regulatory hoops as far as that's concerned, bring them to domestic markets. And what is great about them is not just the fast tracking, I guess you could say, to an FDA approval status, but it's the idea that these drugs are most often orphan drugs or drugs that are treating very specific diseases that affect a small population but are typically fatal or pretty damaging. So what that means to a certain extent is you have a locked-in market. Forgive me, this sounds probably that I'm being a little bit heartless, but I'm not. This is just the way the world is. That you have a locked-in audience and you have a very small demographic that you need to sell to. So with Gleolan, this product that they had recently put on the market just this last quarter and have made quite a a profit from because they're doing quite well in sales. This thing treats very specific brain disorder treatment that is necessary. You can't get away without it. And they don't have to have a large sales force to actually get this thing out the door. And the nice thing about it, Gleolan is an amazing drug compared to what's currently on the market to do what it does. As Chris said, they are not on products that are stagnant and on their way down. All of these products are continuing to build market share, and sales are growing. So they have a lifeline already without this treosulfan that we've been hearing so much about. However, if treosulfan does come on the market, which very well may in the next year, it's going to add a significant revenue bump to this company that makes its market cap versus share price right now, which is absolutely ridiculous, to stunningly like out of this world. So it'd be nice to get in on this. The guys that are running this, and I didn't talk about this first, Ken d'Entremont, are veterans of the industry, know what they're doing, they have experience, they've got the connections, and they're already doing the job. So this is a very interesting opportunity here that I think a lot of the market is missing because, as Chris has said before, they have caught him on using the term biotech. Many of the people that are in the investment community confuse this company for a pharmaceutical company that develops its own drugs, which it is not. And so much to what applies to the regular drug progression to FDA approval does not apply to these people at all. So I'm going to move on, let Fabi talk about this. We brought her in because she's an expert investor, and I would love to hear her point of view on this company.
Well, I'm not an expert investor in non-biotech companies, which Medexus, is not. So when I look at a company like this, I see, and I try to compare it with what I know, which is mining investing. In mining investing, you're kind of screwed long term because you are sitting on a gold mine, quite literally, or not. But then in order to grow that, you either depend on the price of the commodity or you have to go out and buy somebody else, find something, right? With the case of Medexus is like they can expand their portfolio with comparatively not much money versus what they can make in the market in 1 year, 2 years, you name it. And so I was looking at, how much it would cost for them to add a new name to their portfolio versus sales. And it's actually quite positive. It looks like, they would spend about 80% of 1 year's worth of sales in order to get that signed and done, which is awesome. It's unfortunate that, they have been pegged by some people as a biotech company and misunderstood because you look at the share price and you can see that what they've achieved, especially financially, versus what the chart shows is there's just complete disconnect, right? I mean, I was looking at the financials and I looked at the market cap and I had to do a double take, triple take, quadruple take because it does not make sense how a company can grow so much financially and that not reflect in the share price, but such is the Canadian small cap market as it stands today. One thing that I really like about them, and I think that Galen brought this up, is yes, they do have a captive market. And the interesting thing on top of that is not only can they get, clients for life, but they go into niches that aren't super popular. So they go to rare diseases and they specialize on the little known diseases, little known conditions that people aren't talking about and not many people are actually developing drugs for, which means that you essentially have a monopoly very quickly. So you get in, you have a certain type of monopoly, you get patients/clients for life. And you're doing this on the basis of getting something approved that's already been approved somewhere else instead of trying to develop it from scratch. I think it's a beautiful business model. I wish I could apply this to what I know. I don't think I can, but it's really, really smart. And I think sooner or later, either this company is going to create so much value that people are finally going to wake up to it and the price is going to appreciate, or I could see them being taken out by a private company or public company that's just going to look at all the cash that they're generating And as that falls to the bottom line, or as their portfolio just grows to, a size that's interesting to somebody else, and they go, this is too cheap, let's just go and buy the whole thing. So I really like what they're doing.
There you go. A little stamp of approval right there. Vishal, how do you think from a technical side of things about Medexus?
Yeah, for sure. And just to back up what Fabi said there about, the Medexus carving this niche, for themselves, it also means they don't have to compete with the billion-dollar, Johnson and Johnson and those sort of pharmaceutical companies. So I think they're in a really good spot, having a monopoly in this little niche that they've carved out. We say it's a specialty pharma company, but obviously the chart is sort of acting like it's a biotech company. If we look at way back in 2021, when the stock was trading at $7 Canadian, that's the first dump we had on that treosulfan news. And then bringing that forward to this year, around September, we also had another major drop in the stock, taking us to all-time record lows just below $1. And that was also caused by the delay of that treosulfan news as well. So, we keep saying that the stock is definitely not just a treosulfan stock, but the market for some reason just keeps reacting on that news, and just for some reason it just ignores the fact that this company has a real core growing business, right? Which is just making beating quarter after quarter, right? This quarter was its strongest quarter in company history in terms of revenue. So company, the product line is there growing. We've heard about Gleolan, which is that new drug, which, just some of the earnings on that drug has been reported in this earnings report. The next quarter will have much more of that drug involved in the revenue split there. So I think we'll be looking forward to that as a catalyst. In terms of technicals, we've now recovered from that major support level. Like, it was resistance, turned to support. It is the $1.75 level. I've written a lot of technicals on this chart because it just has really nice support and resistance levels, which have multiple touches here. And I drew something out here at $2.50, and that's exactly where we saw the sellers jump in on the initial pop after the record earnings there. And we're now stuck between 250 here to the upside, and about $1.75, $1.80 here to the downside. So just have to wait for a break. Obviously, catalyst going forward is the next earnings report, which likely is going to also make cut or break company history. And then we're looking forward to that treosulfan news in 2023. But I just think that the market should sort of wake up to sort of realize that this core business is growing and making a lot of money. And I think the share price should be going higher. And don't just believe me. There's actually a lot of other Canadian analysts out there with some investment firms that have higher price targets for this company that are above $2.60. And we've talked about treosulfan, the cherry on the top. Could that be that major catalyst which will regain and take us back to those $7 levels when treosulfan was still in the news for the company at those times? So I like the chart here. I like the company. I think this is one where the technicals and the fundamentals are both aligned. I should probably say that personally, I'm also a shareholder here. So, consider that as well. But I like what I see here on Medexus.
Well, there you go. Vishal's an interested party, as it were.
Yeah.
So, Chris, very quickly, can you give us a rundown on how much equity guru bucks you'd be dropping on Medexus at this point?
Well, I think it's the same as I've said for every one of these that we've done for Medexus in the past. Let it roll, like all of it. If I'm looking back a year and a half when the first treosulfan hiccup happened, they were trading at $7.50. And today, like the last video we did, I think they were at $1. Now they're riding over $2. It seems like a nice forward move up, a steady move up, considering the economy and the number of companies that are having trouble. So I don't think you're going to get it much cheaper than this unless for some reason treosulfan gets rejected. When treosulfan gets approved, like you said about some of the other medications, this isn't an allergy pill that they have to go in and hire 2,000 salespeople and go out to every Walgreens to try and get on shelves. this is something that might be of interest to maybe 50 doctors in the world that will use it instead of the existing medications for a fat amount of cash every time it's used. So your sales push is an email to not even enough people to max out your BCC list. Honestly, like as soon as it gets approved, this is being used. So I think treosulfan is the gift that keeps on giving down the road, but it's the reason that we're getting it so cheap right now. If treosulfan had never existed, this thing would be traveling along $8 like it was, no problem at all, justifying its existence just on the other medications in its arsenal. And so I don't have any hesitation at all dropping that 10. In fact, we've been buying since our last video on this, and we're very happy with the investment.
There we go. We have all sorts of interested investors on this particular episode. All right, Fabi, go ahead. Tell me what you think.
Well, it's a good company. It's a cheap company. I don't think I'd be lucky enough to get it at the super, super cheap price of, less than $1. So I'd probably, knowing my habits of just liking something and going all in, I'd probably go all in.
And it's probably worth noting as well that the average price target for analysts on this thing is around $4.
There you go.
So we're getting in way cheap as it stands, even though it's been, more than half as much.
Oh, there you go. Typically, I'm a cheap bastard. Everybody can attest to that. But today, I'm feeling rather gregarious and want to open this, my wallet fully. I'm dropping $10,000 on this one because, as it stands, they're worth more than they are worth. Do you know what I mean? It's already covered. The only way is up, and it's just a matter of the market figuring it out, which I can't see them not doing at some point. So I'm willing to wait. I'm throwing the 10 grand in. How about you, Vishal?
Same thing, 10K, and I'm willing to ride the treosulfan volatility. But I do think the next earnings quarter will be quite it'll be a big earnings report for them as well, and I think they'll continue to break records or company records as well. So I'm going 10K. I think technically I'm averaging up now in my position, but yeah, full 10K.
Awesome. Well, there you go. We're all pretty positive about this one. If there was a bell, ding, I'd ring it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is all about Medexus Pharma, trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol MDP. They are a Canadian specialty pharma company that you should really be taking a look at. Again, please do your own due diligence. We're smart. Well, I'm not. You guys are. But, please seek some professional advice when you do stuff. Don't just go willy-nilly buying into your portfolio. We love you, but, make your homework, all right? Chris has got to turn his mic on.
They never listen to that.
Yeah.
They just run through that and just buy all stuff.
Exactly.
Really.
Well, I'm
They
glad
don't talk to any
this is
professionals
more a message for the BCSC.
Right.
Also, past performance doesn't pretend any kind of future developments. So, do your business. So that's it for us. We'll see you soon. Love to have you here. Bye.